All right, everyone, let's keep going. For this, I want you to pull up your functions notes. Hopefully you've been holding on to those as you were requested to several lessons ago, because we're going to learn about a few more. What we're going to begin working with here are what we refer to as aggregate functions. And the reason they're called aggregate functions is because they produce a result from a set of data. So to give you an example of what that means, we'll just hit the ground on this and begin going over the functions average, min, and max. And where these go are in the select clause. They can also go in the having clause. We'll be going over that one later. So don't freak out that you don't know what having means, but might as well keep it in your notes so that way you can refer back to it later. So what they do is average returns the average of the data you pass to it. Min returns the lowest of the data that you pass to it, and max returns the highest. So I know that's a 3-in-1, but they're all very similar, so we'll be going through all of them all at once. And we'll begin by looking at retail order. Retail order is a table that has 3 orders in it. It lists what store they were ordered from, and when the order took place, and how much the total order was for. So it's important, as I'd mentioned before you begin working in any SQL trying to pull data out of a database, you need to understand what the data is. Because if you don't understand the data, how are you expected to extract information from it? So what we're going to do is open a new SQL query. And let's say I want the average amount of the orders that were taken. So you could bust out a calculator and calculate this by hand if you wanted to, and that's not necessarily even an impractical thing for having only 3 orders. But remember, even though we're working with a small data set now, in theory you could be working with hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of records, and that's not practical for you to, or for anyone, to be trying to calculate by hand. You want the computer to do that. That's what they're here for. So what I'm going to do is, as a manager, I might say, I want to know what the average order is. Like every time an order is placed, about what should I expect out of it financially. So what we can do is use the average keyword for that, or function rather. So instead of just selecting order total from retail order, that's only going to list the 3 records that show me what the total amount of the orders were. That doesn't help me calculate an average. So instead, I'll put average and then an open parentheses. Average is a function that is expecting a field to be passed to it, because it needs to know what field it's going to be averaging. So we open parentheses, put order total in it, close it. So I want it to give me the average order total from retail order, and I'll run it. And you notice now I only get back one answer, even though it's 3 fields, and that's why it's called an aggregate function, because it's taken the data from those 3 records and told it to perform some calculation on it to present me with a single result. And what this has given me is the average amount of the 3 orders in our database. So this is good. This is information. The only problem is that now Access doesn't know what to call this. So it has returned it under a generic name, expression 1000. So while we know what that is, on a query that performs many functions all at once, it can become difficult to tell, wait, is that first one the average or is it the minimum? I don't remember, yada yada. So it's better to use the as keyword to rename it to something that you know what it is. So that's where the as keyword comes in. So seeing as how this is the average order amount, I can just return it under that name as average order. So now when I run it, I know what that number means. So let's keep going. What if I said I want to know the smallest order that's ever been placed here? Well, that's the smallest amount, so that's the minimum. MIN, and it works just like average. Open parentheses, you tell it what you want to find the minimum value, and then give it a name. Otherwise, it'll return as that expression 1000 thing again, as minimum order or smallest order. And let's do another one. Maximum. Maximum gives me the largest value. So what was the biggest order I had? Okay, so max order total as biggest order. So I run it, and now it tells me what my average order was, what my smallest order was, and what my biggest order was. And it has done this based on all of the data that we selected. So you can actually run exclusions based on this data where you want to say, I want to total up everything except for order 2000. Order 2000 was very different. That was a special order. So I can say where order number, is not equal to, that's the not equal to sign, 2000. So this will give me the average and the minimum and the maximum order total for everything except order 2000. That won't be considered. So now my average order has gone up, my smallest order has changed because we've excluded this one from the calculation. So if you leave where off, it'll run these functions based on the entire set of data. If you use the where clause, it'll run it based on the data that you would have gotten back. So I hope that helps you understand what average, min, and max do. It works best on numeric fields, obviously. So come on back, we're going to learn a couple more.